Good evening, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us for KXAN Live at 6. I'm Will DuPree, coming to you from the KXAN Live studio. We're going to share with you now the day's top headlines and pass along details about what's in store for the weather forecast, so please stick around for that. We begin tonight, though, with a live look in London, where people are gathering right now to mourn the death of Britain's longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. The royal family announced this afternoon that she died at age 96 at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Just 2 days ago, she met there with Britain's new Prime Minister Liz Truss, upholding a tradition she did 17 times during her reign. Meanwhile, here in the U.S., President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden remembered the Queen. They said in a statement, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was more than a monarch. She defined an era. The president also ordered flags to fly at half-staff to honor her memory. If you take a look here, this afternoon they were lowered at the White House. Here's now a remembrance from Marnie Hughes.
Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor. Not exactly born to be queen, at least not at birth, back in 1926. But her uncle's abdication passed the crown to her father, and after his death, Elizabeth ascended to the throne at just 25 years old, the first televised coronation seen around the world in 1952, putting the new queen inside people's homes like no royal before her. Her husband, Philip, kneeling before her, only years earlier at her side for their wedding. Four children together, the first a future king.
And here's really wonderful fairy tale sight. And as they come to Her Majesty the Queen, they will turn, Prince of Wales will bow,
Prince Charles and his first wife, another mother to a future king, the rumored source of ill will within the royal family. Princess Diana's tragic death marking a defining moment in Queen Elizabeth's reign as she addressed a grieving world.
So what I say to you now, as your queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart.
Queen Elizabeth, a fixture on the world stage, meeting nearly every American president since Harry Truman, dancing with Ford, riding horses with Reagan, watching baseball with Bush.
This is a kick for the fans.
Mr. Bond, Your Majesty.
The Queen kicking off the London Olympics in 2012, making 007 himself exercise a little royal patience.
Good evening, Mr. Bond.
The longest-serving British monarch ever, marking a milestone after milestone.
It has touched me deeply to see so many thousands of families, neighbors and friends celebrating together.
A diamond jubilee, marking her 60th year on the throne. Even a massive party for her 90th birthday in 2016. Her Majesty Elizabeth II, God save the Queen.
This afternoon, Governor Greg Abbott joined other Texas leaders sharing their condolences about the Queen's death. He said in part here, the entire world is better to have had a strong, steady leader like Queen Elizabeth II, and we are forever honored to have had her as an ally to the United States and to Texas. And here's a bit of history to share today. Queen Elizabeth actually made a visit to Austin 31 years ago. Governor Ann Richards and Lady Bird Johnson hosted a reception for her on May 20th, 1991. The royal couple met and exchanged gifts with the former First Lady and her two daughters. And during the Queen's time on the throne, there have been 13 U.S. presidents. The only one, though, she did not meet of those was President Johnson. Turning now to other news, both federal, local, and county law enforcement agencies are teaming up now to address the issues of fentanyl overdoses in Hays County. 4 teenagers have died from overdoses in the last few months. And in a press conference today, law enforcement talked about how major arrests they recently made and unveiled some of their plan to tackle the increase in fentanyl-related deaths. Here's Sarah Alsha, and she's here to explain.
This is where just a few hours ago, the Drug Enforcement Administration, Kyle Police Department, and the Hays County Sheriff's Department announced they've made 2 arrests in the fight against fentanyl. One of them, a 20-year-old man from San Marcos, another a 16-year-old from San Marcos as well. Law enforcement says drug cartels are using social media and other platforms to sell and disperse fentanyl and pills. The Kyle Police Chief says they use code names and switch their identities, making it hard for law enforcement to track them down. The DEA says it's partnering with the National Guard and Hays County Public Health Department and local law enforcement to create an overdose task force with 2 goals. One is to track down and arrest criminals with fake fentanyl pills. The second is to educate the public and young people about the dangers of this lethal drug.
It's time that we get together. We have to pull together as a team here. The law enforcement is doing it. We got to get our community, we got to get our youth to work with us. We got to put a stop to this. If not, the last thing we want is for officers responding to another fentanyl overdose death.
Now, the Hays County Sheriff's Department also announced it's teaming up with fire and EMS to create an overdose mapping tracking system to help track fentanyl in the county. Reporting from Kyle, Sarah Alsha, KXAN News.
First warning weather with Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans.
Well, let's start off with some great news. Our weekly drought monitor update is just out on this Thursday afternoon, and the drought has improved by 1 to 2 categories across much of our area. Now, there is still need for more rain, with some pockets of extreme and exceptional drought present southwest of Austin and up in the northern hill country, but this yellow color is actually out of drought conditions. Dry soil there on the map is just a precursor to drought. Much of Texas seeing a massive drought improvement over the past month with the shift in the weather pattern. Big chunks of the state over the south and eastern Texas have been taken out of drought status. Now, with that said, of course, we still need some more rain, especially southwest of Austin, and we still especially need some water in our lakes, Lake Travis especially. Now, we're not going to get any anytime soon. Pretty dry weather pattern settling in. A large trough of low pressure is setting up to our east. That counterclockwise flow around it means we have a northerly flow up in the atmosphere above us. That does a couple of things which make the weather actually drier and more comfortable. The northerly flow aloft makes it hard for rain to move in here. National Weather Service maps in agreement with our best models. No rainfall, maybe a couple drops in the bucket over the next week combined. So a big change compared to where we have been over the past couple weeks. The muggy meter is also going to slowly decrease with a little northeast wind some days of the next 7. The muggy meter is still a little higher than you might like, but look at this. This weekend it gets lower. Next week we actually have a little reinforcing push of cool air. All of these things are going to make the weather feel more comfortable day and night. Temperatures out there this evening still quite warm in the 90s in parts of the Austin metro. Tomorrow morning, though, it starts to get a little cooler and a little more comfortable with the drop in humidity. Upper 60s in the cool spots, close to 70 in Austin. Tomorrow, we end your Friday pretty warm, but it will be slightly less humid in the lower 90s in most areas. And Saturday morning, look at this, as the humidity continues to slowly decline, as do the overnight lows. Upper 60s in Austin for a really lovely start to your weekend. Saturday afternoon, it's hot, even with that drier northeasterly breeze, including for the Texas-Alabama game. Here's your latest forecast if you're heading out to DKR Texas Memorial Stadium. 11 a.m. kickoff, very comfortable at 83, but we're up at 93 with sunshine, light winds by the end of the game. Be safe, have fun out there, and hook 'em horns. Tonight's forecast, mostly clear and mild with a light east wind. Lows drop to 71. Tomorrow, it's still quite warm under scattered clouds, but we're dry, and there's a small humidity drop. Highs in Austin reach 93. Another look at your weekend forecast, even warmer on Sunday afternoon after a beautiful start in the upper 60s. Not much rain to look toward as highs remain seasonably hot through much of next week, and it looks like this large-scale weather pattern change of drier weather will last. 8 to 14-day outlooks suggesting warmer than normal temperatures continuing and drier than normal precipitation across our area.
Thank you, as always, to David for sharing that forecast update. Nice to see this beautiful view there in downtown Austin. We've got one more story to tell you about, and it focuses on Austin ISD and an effort launched alongside the city of Austin. Both the district and city leaders are working to expand employment opportunities for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The pilot program would offer temporary employment for the students who qualify, and then they would be eligible for permanent jobs once they complete complete their training. Now, joining me tonight to focus on this story and tell us a little bit more about it, she's been looking at it all day, that's digital reporter Kelsey Thompson. Kelsey, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Will.
Such a nice story to hear about, too, to end on this evening. So tell us how this program works exactly.
Yeah, so as you had mentioned, Will, this program is being developed in tandem with the City of Austin and Austin ISD, essentially to offer temporary employment opportunities within city departments for qualifying students. Now, this is a training program, so students who are admitted will go through a training process, and after they complete that, they would then be eligible for permanent positions within the city various departments. And I spoke earlier today with Councilmember Kathy Tovo, who sponsored this item, and she told me that this is a really great opportunity to highlight some of the work that students are doing and also fill some of the gaps within the city departments.
We know we have needs across the organization in areas as diverse as animal services and the library and the parks department and many other areas in between. And so there are really opportunities for individuals with all kinds of interests.
Now, as you just heard there, they're looking to focus on different student interests and areas that work best for their needs and for their strengths. Starting with the pilot, it is going to begin in 4 city departments, and eventually down the road, they envision this spreading out across city needs and city departments to really have a more holistic program for students to apply for.
Kelsey, you found out that these students will classify as temporary city employees. So what does the pay look like for them?
Yes, so we know that the City of Austin recently adjusted its minimum wage to $20 an hour for the upcoming fiscal year, which begins October 1st. And as temporary employees, these students will qualify for that $20 an hour minimum wage, which Kathy Tovo, again, Councilmember Tovo told us that this is really important to have equal opportunities for students of all intellectual and developmental capabilities, and to make sure that this program doesn't dissuade any student from being able to access it and to apply for it as a resource.
We did mention that this is a joint program launched by Austin ISD and the City of Austin. So what do city and district leaders hope that students will benefit from this?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing they said is employment opportunities for these students with developmental or intellectual disabilities. Historically, they have been a population that have been marginalized and haven't had as much access to equal employment opportunities. So when I spoke with Austin ISD officials earlier today, they're just excited for expanded opportunities for students and for them to really get to show off their own unique skill sets and contribute to the workforce.
Persons with disabilities, students with disabilities deserve that as well. And they also have something to contribute to the community as well. They just need an opportunity and a little more help than some of us do.
So when will this officially launch, Kelsey?
So they're beginning to roll it out right now. Essentially, Austin ISD has employment specialists that are working with these students. There's about 100 or so students within Austin ISD who qualify for this program, and they're slowly beginning to roll out and connect those students with the matching department that works best for them and their skill sets. But we're going to see more and more of this throughout the fall and into the next year.
Really such a cool thing for all those students involved, and we'll of course track them as they've maybe get partnered up with certain departments within the city. But if you would like to read Kelsey's story, here's the headline right here. It's available right now on KXAN.com, so click into that story whenever you get a chance. We want to thank you all again for watching here this evening on KXAN Live at 6. We really do appreciate it. If you'd like to read more in-depth about what stories we talked about this evening, they are available right now on KXAN.com and the KXAN News mobile app. Please download it if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I'm Will DuPree in the KXAN Live studio. We'll see you back here at another time. Enjoy your Thursday. Take care.